My name is Rodney, and I live in Washington State. On July 19, 2017, my life changed forever when I had a near-death experience that opened my eyes to realities I never thought possible. At the time, I worked as a longshoreman just south of Seattle. My job involved loading massive 50-ton steel pilings onto a barge. That day, everything seemed normal, though it would become anything but. We were stacking the pilings 5 levels high, higher than usual. Because we were short-staffed, I was asked to do double duty. After securing the pilings to the crane, I would climb onto the stack to guide them into place. It was grueling work, but I didn't think twice about it. After finishing my task, I began walking back to the ladder. I had just stepped onto the second rung when the world seemed to lurch. It felt as though someone had violently jarred the barge. I later learned a tugboat might have struck us, but in that moment, I only knew I was falling. The steel ladder separated from the barge, and everything around me slowed down. I could see rust particles floating in the air, almost feel their gritty texture. Instinctively, I reached out for the top piling, but I missed. My mind screamed, "Oh no," as I plummeted toward the steel deck below. At a 45-degree angle, I felt a pop, and suddenly, I wasn't in my body anymore. I didn't hover above the scene or watch from a distance. I was just gone. My body continued to fall, landing face first on the steel ladder as it crashed to the deck. But I didn't feel it. Instead, I found myself in what I can only describe as the void. The void was absolute darkness, but it wasn't frightening. It felt serene, like being wrapped in the softest blanket on a cold night. I was completely at peace, free from pain, worry, or fear. I could see in all directions, though there was nothing to see. Time didn't exist there, and I had no sense of how long I stayed in that place. It could have been seconds or centuries. Then, like a lightning strike, a tear opened in the darkness. Light burst through, and I was drawn into it. The transition was instantaneous, and I found myself in a tree grove. A gravel path wound through the trees, and though I had no physical body, I floated along it effortlessly. The path felt symbolic, as though it represented life itself, weaving through moments and memories. Eventually, I emerged onto a mountain ledge. Before me stretched the most beautiful, vibrant landscape I had ever seen. It was Earth-like, but infinitely more vivid, the colors far beyond anything I could imagine. Below me was a 3-tiered meadow. On the lowest tier, I saw human-like figures and other beings, their forms illuminated by a soft glow. On the second tier, directly ahead, was a massive golden portal, rectangular and radiant. Its light pulsed with energy, as if it were alive. I've since found an image that resembles it, and every time I see it, I'm transported back to that moment. On the highest tier stood a structure that resembled the Parthenon, but it was made of marble and adorned with gems and gold. It was majestic, a place of indescribable beauty. I felt myself gliding down, as if I were hang gliding, toward a lush, green field between the second and third tiers. The grass seemed alive. As I landed, it wrapped around me gently, like a mother embracing her child. The sensation was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It felt like liquid love, a plasma-like substance that absorbed into every part of me. It healed, rejuvenated, and restored me, filling me with bliss beyond comprehension. While lying in the grass, I noticed something remarkable. I could see at a microscopic level. I watched the cells in the grass dividing, each one glowing with life. I felt a profound connection to everything around me. The love emanating from the grass, the sky, and the very air was overwhelming. It was a love so pure and vast that it eclipsed even the love I feel for my children. I was at peace in a way I never thought possible. Time didn't exist there, so I have no idea how long I stayed in that perfect place. But eventually, a silver mist began to form in the grass. From the mist emerged 7 beings of light. They were tall, slender, and human-like, but their forms radiated a bluish-white light. Their presence was both powerful and comforting. The tallest stood in the center, and though we didn't speak aloud, we communicated telepathically. They surrounded me, and I understood they were explaining why I was there. Though I can't remember all they said, I knew they were beings of immense love and wisdom. Suddenly, I felt as though I was being placed inside a tube or a cannon. Looking up at the beings, I realized I was about to leave. I felt myself being launched downward through a rainbow-colored vortex. The colors shimmered and danced around me, much like the Bifrost from the Thor movies. I fell for what felt like an eternity, yet I was aware that I was nearing my destination. As I descended, the vortex began to close, and I felt the first pangs of pain. It hit me all at once, excruciating, like every nerve in my body was on fire. It was as if my spirit was being forced back into my physical body. The trauma of re-entry was overwhelming, far from the serene transition I'd experienced earlier. When I opened my eyes, I saw blurry outlines of my coworkers. They were shouting, "He's alive! He's alive!" I realized I was back in my body, lying on the sweltering steel deck of the barge. My coworkers, in a panic, carried me to a flat loader and brought me to the office, where it was cooler. They didn't call for medical help. Instead, they rushed me to the hospital themselves. By the time I arrived, I was bleeding from my nose, ears, and eyes. At the hospital, I was treated for severe trauma and transferred to a major medical center in Seattle. The recovery process was grueling. I had to relearn how to walk, speak, and function. I later discovered that my left pectoral muscle had been severed and required surgery. Since that day, my life has taken a spiritual turn. I've become deeply connected to energy, healing, and the natural world. I've worked with crystals and organites, guided by an inner compulsion to create and share healing tools. Signs and synchronicities have appeared throughout my journey, reaffirming that I'm on the right path. One unforgettable experience involved a little girl named Aurora. She handed me a dandelion, saying, "My name is Aurora. I'm a girl now." Later that evening, a friend sent me a photo of the Aurora Borealis glowing violet, a color associated with healing and transformation. These moments, seemingly small, have carried profound meaning. I've also encountered spiritual guides who have affirmed my experience. One man, without knowing my story, touched my injury and reassured me, saying, "You're connected, and everything is working as it should." Later, I found his image in a book about Saint Germain, a spiritual master. It was a moment that brought me to tears, confirming the interconnectedness of everything I'd experienced. This journey has taught me that love is the ultimate force in the universe. We are all connected, and our purpose is to share love, healing, and hope with one another. Though life is fragile, the love and guidance from the other side remind me that we are never truly alone.